We are on our way to Hoffman Organic Farms.
And we're going to
Certified.
They are actually the only certified organic farm in this part of Indiana. What are we going to look at?
pigs and chicken.
Egg and chicken.
Do you remember what kind of pigs?
No, no.
Magnolias.
Mangalitsa. May they touch her?
They started out of Michigan with
Hey,
Wilhelm Pohl.
Put that back in the van.
And he has his California base,
Right
he has
where
his
you
New York
stop.
base, and his Michigan base. He's a cherry farmer.
Okay.
And he started the importing of them in '94.
Listen.
Okay.
So it actually started in Michigan, so
Yeah, I think
he
I read
has
that.
Elizabeth over in Hungary, and she does all of his lineage tracking to make sure what he's importing is correct lineage. The issue is that the inbreeding. So what was first imported was called a swallow belly, and a swallow belly is a blonde crossed with a extinct Russian boar.
Okay.
So there is absolutely zero lineage with a swallow belly. So you either have to go with a red or a blonde.
Okay.
When I bought my boar from Wilhelm, he was imported from Hungary specifically for me. His DNA was traced back 1,200 years to make sure that there was no lineage discrepancy. His traits will dominate and take any of the bad genetics out of my herd. I'm a chicken farmer. I'm the only certified organic pasture-raised operation in the whole state of Indiana.
That's what we've looked at.
And it is so my good friend Matt Platt, who lives 5 minutes away, his idea was he wanted to compete with me on the chickens, on the organic chicken side. So he said, Ben, I want the biggest, fattest, sloppiest pig I can get. And I'm gonna take it to Detroit, I'm gonna take it to Chicago, I'm gonna everywhere, and I'm gonna sell this to restaurants. And I said,
It looks like
possibly, but I don't know if you are. Like he could say he was a car salesman, so he could sell anything to anybody. So after about 2 years, he had a swallow belly, miscellaneous boars that he would trade people for, not good lineage. And I went to his house one day and I said, show me the Mangalitsas. And he took me in this, like, his barn, which was a 10th of the size, this was 16th of the size, to this like 10 by 10 area where these things lived their whole life. And I said, what are you doing with them?
Right.
Like, what? Nobody's gonna buy that.
Mm-mm.
And I didn't even know what I'd never even had a pig. So I had no fences, no anything.
Yeah.
And I said, I just feel sorry for them. Let me buy them from you.
Oh.
I don't want pigs, but I'll just buy them. And he's like, all right, let me think about it. My wife, the whole 9 yards. So I took my mother. I said, I just love them to death. And I actually took my mother, not my wife, my mother. And I said, look at them. Nothing should live like this.
Yeah.
And he'd been trying for 2 years to sell them, couldn't sell them to anybody. And he was feeding donkey feed with molasses in the 1 yard.
Yeah.
So this was my first Hoffman Organics pig package right here. This was it. He's like, you just need some hog panels And this is how it started. So I bought his herd, which was a swallow belly, and 4 piglets. So I called Wilhelm Cole up in Michigan, and I said, Wilhelm, I need a boar. And he said, when do you need a boar? I said, doesn't really matter. I said, I don't have any fences. I don't have, none of this was here. It was just an open field with chickens running all over the place.
Wow.
And I said, I need a boar. And he said, I can get you one in like 6 or 8 months. Elizabeth's working on getting the reds over here. And I said, that's perfect, just let me know. And he imported Arthur for me, and that was the start. These, of course, the swallow bellies don't live very long.
Okay. So they are generally a meat pig.
Yeah, it's, if you can get them to, a swallow belly, if you can get it to 18 months, it's prime. Okay. Anything over 18 months is too long. The fat cap on it, the fat cap is gorgeous. And you'll see when I show you Esther out there, she's just too much. So I said, well, I got to diversify. And Wilhelm's like, well, I'm going to import the blonde for you. Arthur's over there. See what I meant? To take but all I had was a swallow belly sow. To take the traits out of the swallow belly back to what a Mangalitsa should be. So to reduce the fat cap on it and more muscular, the bone structure, because the swallow bellies have just been so crossbred, they're tough to find when's the right time versus how much they put in. So these are my 2 new gilts. So there's a gentleman up in Angola. His name is Zach Straw, and he is on this breeding Mangalitsa frenzy.
Okay.
Genetics are all over the place. So I bought these 2 gilts from him. And you can see this has good genetics. She is just like a Mangalitsa should be. Her sister over there has a shorter snout, a bigger jowl, and they're nice. They're just like a dog.
Yeah.
I train them from day one. They will never bite. They will never do anything. They just want to be petted. Yeah. That's all they want. They don't have any access to really shelter or anything. They need a mud pit. These do not get as hot. The swallow bellies get extremely hot. The blondes and the reds lose their hair probably January, March, May, June, and they will go almost completely bald.
Do you have problems with sunburns, things like that?
Never once.
Okay.
Nope. They lay out here with no shade, no shelter.
Sure.
And if they do, they can go back, in the woods over there.
Right.
But this is what they do all day long. But in the summertime, that is their gold mine right there.
Yeah.
There's Arthur. So there's my boar. He actually got up.
Oh.
Arthur, come here.
Wow, he's a big boy.
Come here. And he has a swallow belly. She was sterile at birth. That was one of my that was Agnes's first litter, and she was sterile. So she's his teaser to keep in there all the time.
Okay.
Wow.
We can walk around here. Arthur, come here.
He's got a
the way the muscle just rolls over that shoulder.
Giant.
His hams.
He's fantastic.
What are you doing? Get over here. Come here. Now, sometimes you get a little feisty.
Don't put your hands in Ducky's till you've given permission.
There you go. Good boy. But he will do the same thing as the ones up there. When you pet him, he will lay right down.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's how.
And you can feel his armor plating that he gets.
Oh wow.
And it goes all the way around to protect his vital organs.
Okay.
For fights and everything else. But my only fear is I don't know how long they live. His father was 13 or 14, which now will put him at 16. And he was 4 times the size of him. Okay. His head was over a 4-foot size.
You have to freaking pet him, Mama.
But he was still breeding and doing everything else. But
Little mild temperament.
yeah. But when he's agitated or when
Look how pretty.
he's only tried to bite me once.
Yeah.
So I don't go in with him much. She's the nicest thing ever. I love her to death, and I always feel so bad for her every day. But it's like he's got to have a teaser so it didn't get out. When I had him my very first stop,
Good, baby. Mama.
Don't touch him.
because
To Mama.
he is the nicest
Yeah.
Hi.
And her. Mommy.
Hi.
May I touch it?
Y'all can touch her on the top of the nose, maybe.
Okay. Just send to the rest of the herd, letting you know they're ready to go. Cheers.
So is there something specific that you have to do with them to ensure that they don't bite, that they're not aggressive? Is it handling every day? Just handling?
Every single day. Yep. Yep.
Handling and love on them.
Except Arthur. I don't. But you can see his characteristics. I mean, that's what a Mangalitsa should look like.
Yeah.
His traits are good. The nose, the ears, the jowls, the structure of it, the leg size. And you can notice the swallow bellies have very short legs, which, because 90% of them is large. So it's just, it's getting it out of them. Sure. And you'll see, well, now they're standing.
Okay, so how old did you say he was back here already?
Arthur is now 4 years old.
Okay.
Yep.
And he's done growing?
No.
No.
Probably 3 times bigger than that.
So at what age
His
do they
dad
stop
was-
growing?
I have no idea. His dad would come up to a 4-foot fence and his tusk wrapped all the way around. It touched at the top. I wouldn't even go near it. The handler up at Cole's farm went in, slipped,
He said hi.
and he said the pig just walked over to me, stepped on my leg, not aggressively, and shattered his femur in 25 places.
Wow.
Something.
I mean, his head was like a grizzly bear.
So he's like a cow.
What are you guys doing?
Look how pretty. So she's a good one. She has the long nose,
Yep. They
the
all do.
short jowl.
So he takes it. So you got a male coming up here.
Okay. Are there any characteristics difference in the two, a male versus the female?
Male just puts on the jowl.
Just the jowl.
Yep.
Okay.
Females usually have about a 3-inch, 2.5, 3 inch. The males will go almost 4 inches.
Okay.
He's still castrating at like 3 months.
Oh, no.
Oh, he wants to be loved. Yeah, he wants to be scratched.
I let them nurse for 6 months.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
They nurse their entire. I mean, they never get separated really until she tells them to quit, and that's when I know I need to castrate them. So they're usually 60 pounds.
At wean.
Yeah.
Okay. So are these pasture pigs?
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
Oh, turkeys are saying hello.
Hello, turkeys.
yeah. They will. I mean, once I put them over in this patch.
That's really what East Texas looks like.
Yes.
No, you just let them out there and put up a fence, and they'll never leave.
Are they good foragers? Are they?
They will clear it out. So they will eat the bark off every tree. You just have to watch if there's any specific trees you actually like.
Hold on.
They'll strip the bark off your
They'll
coat.
strip the bark. Yep.
Okay, so you said you started out as chickens,
Yeah.
and so you went and you bought the pigs. So what made you just keep going with them?
Insanity.
We understand that well.
Well, I mean, you look at the infrastructure that I built for them, and I'm like, I just love them to death. I don't know what it is. So my end goal. So the day I bought the Mangalitsa is the day I started all my HACCP plans for charcuterie.
Okay.
Capricolas, prosciuttos, pepperoni, salamis, all 9 yards. Now I own my own USDA plant up in Busco, which is 15 minutes from here, and had an ager and fermenter flown in from France, and that is phase 2021. To be able to use this, and I bought a dehairer, so I can actually take the dehair off the pig at the plant, and the whole 9 yards, because it's how it should be. I mean, I like selling pork chops and pork steaks and ground pork, and I crush it, but it's not the true meaning of it. You know, it should be like the Iberico's in Spain, where it hangs up there, and it's.
Yes.
And I remember when I called the owner of La Crecha, who was on Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmer, and Andrew toured this plant, and I called him one day, and he actually answered, called me back, and I said, I'd like to get in the aging business, and I don't even know what I was doing then. So I used to be an airline pilot. So my career was an architectural engineer. I got an engineering degree. Then I became a pilot for United Airlines, flew for them for 10 years, got bored of that, then got out, got my contractor license, and now I own like 8 different companies. So it's just all over the place. But I was sitting at a job site, and my phone rang, and I answered it. And I said, I'd like to start aging prosciuttos. Okay. And he says, Ben, I'm going to tell you what, buy yourself a plane ticket to Spain. Spend 2 years over there, or just read a book. I said, what about the Mangalitsas? He said, and he is up, I believe, in Minnesota. And he says, nobody produces that many Mangalitsa to serve my customers. He's like, it's got too much fat on it, it's got too much whatever on it. And I said, well, what's lineage? And he's like, it's just easier to get Berks in here. You know.
Sure.
And that was his advice to me. I hung up the phone and I said, well, no, I appreciate your time and everything else, but that's, I mean, and that tried and true determined me to make it happen. So after 5 years of going back and forth with Board Animal Health, the USDA, I now own my own plant outside of a butcher shop. So I can take them, they can scold them,
will not be hateful.
do the whole thing. They roll them into my shop, into the ager and fermenter, and we've got 22 products that we can roll at day number 1.
So start to finish, all in-house. So your little paddocks you have, are these little half-acre paddocks?
They were supposed to be for chickens. And I had my mobile tractor set up for chickens, so I could have 12 tractors and I could move them every day.
Right.
And then that just went out the window.
So are you still in the chicken business?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
How much acres did you use for 10,000 birds?
That right over there where the turkeys are.
That's it?
Yep. That's it.
For 10,000 birds?
What'd you run? Cornishes? Cornish crosses?
I use what's called a white mountain broiler. I found a white mountain broiler from the Eagle's Nest, which is in Osceola, Ohio. So it's up by Cedar Point, if you know where Cedar Point is. Upper Sandusky.
I know, I've seen Osceola signs driving up at some point.
And they haven't changed their, you're good.
Okay.
They haven't changed their genetics since the 50s.
Okay.
1954, I believe, is the last time they modified their white mountain broiler. And it's great.
Okay.
It's like a Cornish cross. It's more vibrant. It pastures extremely well.
Okay.
As soon as, whether it's out of the brooder, when you open the door, I mean, they're out there like lightning.
Right.
Instead of sitting there around the feed trough.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing?
They're, seems like you look at a Cornish cross and they just kind of want to flop there and
Yes.
They have 5, Mama.
Literally. It's all right. New people here. New people.
Oh my word. So they get at a weight they can no longer see very well.
Yes. So I always open her eyes so you can see me. I know.
Oh.
But she never loses the hair, which is the hardest thing for her in the summertime. So she just, it's what it is.
And she's how old?
She is 6.
Just like me.
Just like you, Sue.
Yeah, I put it on my hair.
She's pretty.
Didn't she? But her fat cap is probably 8 inches or better.
Mama,
And her rib cage, like when you process Mangalitsa, the rib cage is honestly this big. The bone structure is so small.
Mama, can I put the...
I know it's just hot. Even today's hot. For her.
It is.
Yeah. So I would recommend against the.
I would be hot.
Not a swallow belly, like a blonde or a red or something.
blonde or a red.
Just wipe it on your pants.
Now, is there a difference?
She's slowly rolling.
Between blondes and reds?
No.
No.
As long as you don't get the ones that with stress or anything, you know. As long as it's good lineage.
Okay, stay back.
So, but she's my girl. I love her to death. This just gets hot.
So how big are they at birth usually?
The size of a pop can. The size of a pop can. They will only have.
I remember us having...
My biggest litter's only been 5. So always small litters. You don't have to worry about getting them bred, but that's what's hard about it is you can't mass produce them. But it's about quality in life, and you're in a 2-year commitment.
Right.
And every single one, it's 2 years. And then finishing correctly. My very first one, which was her brother, and I said, so Joe, who sold me the Tamworth, he's kind of a homesteader. He makes his own cheese, he makes his own wine, he makes his own.
Can I try and do what you were doing?
Yeah.
So he's like, why don't we try a prosciutto? So my very first Mangalitsa swallow belly that I processed, I took over to Bidwell, Ohio, because nobody in Indiana had a Sculpin. And I loaded this thing up, drove to Bidwell, Ohio, and took it into this plant. I said, can I at least tour the plant, before to see what very nice.
Mama made it.
They processed it for me. They called me 3 days later. I went back down there, picked it up in a Toyota Prius. I took 2 coolers, thinking this thing was not even the case. They had hung it and froze it, and it was longer than the Prius was. So I shoved
Oh,
it between.
no.
And I said, "You guys got to have it for me."
Yeah.
I've never had a pig processed.
Oh, they just did a hole?
Yeah, they did a hole, and then
man.
they chilled it with the hole from the hoof to the hub.
Yes. Yes.
So I took the biggest coolers I had, thinking they would both halves would fit, not even close. So I wrapped them in plastic, stopped at the gas station. I mean, literally one hoof up to the windshield on one side, next to my mother, which I took her because she had it. And the other side next to me. And we stopped at the gas station. We packed ice down and drove 4 hours back. Wow. And I gave it to Joe.
And no pictures.
I didn't even know what to take pictures of. What am I going to take pictures of? World's worst disaster or the world's best idea?
Pig and a Prius.
So I get this thing back, I take it, I'm good friends with the owner of a butcher shop, and I said, "Listen, can you help me cut this thing up?" And he says, "Certainly." So I call everybody in, and Joe was going to make just prosciutto for me. So of course he takes the ham off, and he made like 20 different. This was the exact time that I mentioned the charcuterie business 5 years ago, before we had all the plans and everything. But I said, "Can you prototype it?" So we prototyped, I think, 20 different types of everything. I mean, it was just too much. I didn't know what I was tasting, what it should taste like, what I'm looking at.
Right.
So 2 years I waited, keep building the Mangalitsa, you know, and he's like, "The prosciutto's done." And I said, "Perfect." After 2 years of hanging. So we go over to his house, my brother, who lives right there, we cut it open, and my brother's like, "I'm not eating that. I don't even know what it is." And it was like a ham, but you know, it's on the wood thing, and you shave it real thin.
Yeah.
And come to find out
Eli,
that when
Charlotte,
they hung
no.
it, they put a shackle through its knuckle where they hung it, when they were supposed to use rope. And we cut it open a little more, and it was totally destroyed after 2 years, and that was frustrating. So I said,
So the shackle instead of the rope.
would not have punctured it, and the infection or the rot started exactly where the
I see
puncture
what you're saying.
worked up inside the bone. You couldn't see it on the outside.
Sure.
It was up the bone to the knuckle, all internal. And I said, "Well, that's frustrating." And it was good. The outside was good, you know. We still tried a couple of pieces, and then I put it in the inedibles bin and chalked it up to experience. But it's the little things that make you more determined, I guess.
Yeah.
Really started driving me to finish the paperwork and the paperwork side for the USDA on the federal or the state level to have you age a product that is not nitrite infused,
Right.
and sell it to or smoked and sell it to a customer is like try to sell an ice to an Eskimo, as they say. You can't do it. I mean, it is literally the hardest hurdle I've ever had in my entire life. Like flying airplanes, construction, everything super easy. I mean, your format, your plans have to be so spot on, so when you sell your product, they know it's not going to contaminate or hurt the consumer. And we finally got it done, which was.
And how long did that take you?
5 years.
5 years.
Of pushing back and forth paperwork every single 2 weeks to get the approvals.
And it was the 2 years that got you to just keep pushing through, because a lot of people would have been like, "Meh, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna."
No, I mean, maybe, well, it could be insanity. I think it's like, I've never said no to anything, and my wife always says, "Why do you do this?" She's like, "Construction is where everything happened." Like, that's how I started.
We were wondering if you paddocked everyone around following each other.
Oh, well, my brother and I were partners in the chicken business for 5 years, and then one day he quit. So I lost 50% of my help that day. Yeah. So I didn't know what to do. Like, I would always do, when I first started with, then we put all the infrastructure in. We got 2 miles of fencing in the woods. I would do pigs, chickens, pigs, chickens, pigs. But it was too much. Like coming out every day and moving tractors. Yeah. So the 2020 season, I said, well, I got to hire guys, number one, and I've got to simplify it. So I made paddock 1 over there and that one there.
Okay.
I didn't finish that one this season due to construction and time and life. So I always wanted to follow up the rotation like Joe Salton or the other guys talk about, but I found this is just the way I do it. I'll move these guys in with those guys. And my biggest problem is I can't have certified organic chickens following conventional pigs.
Okay.
And
So that makes them uncertified.
Yes.
Okay.
So the feed you see laying here
Sure.
when they eat it.
Yeah.
And that's the catch-22. I used to do all certified organic for every single pig out here, but there's no organic processor. So even if I did want to, I can't. And so I mean, I've resorted to, I have to, for my chicken business, when I first started, there was no organic processor. So I had to pay for a processing plant down in Colfax.
So you don't process your own chickens?
It's not
Okay.
certified organic if I do. So I have to go to a plant.
Are you serious?
Oh yes, it's all about the rules. So that's my problem, is there's no organic pig processors.
Okay.
Is I bought this piece of property 12 years ago,
Uh-huh.
Okay.
and the taxes were $5,600.
Okay.
The day I bought it, it jumped up to $26,000. The assessor, I went to high school with the guy, and I said, Jesse, I said, why is it $26,000? He said, well, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, he said there was a new law that everybody voted on. It was a 1, 2, 3 tax law. Either your ag, your excess residential, or your commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, what do I do? And he says, you got to clear it all out. You got to clear all the trees and take it back to how it was. It used to be a farm at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I'm a pilot.
Right.
What? So I bought a dozer, and I bought a tractor, and I bought all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it took me 2 years to clear. I mean, literally pulling stumps out. I mean, there was trees out here.
Yeah.
And he said, Ben, if you promise to clear it, I'll drop your taxes back down to the $5,600 on year number 1.
Mm-hmm.
He said, then you contact Tim Bomba at the USDA, and you get all the grants you can possibly get. And then you contact the NRCS, and they'll put your woods in a timber stand improvement,
Okay.
where it's managed by a forester. That will take your taxes down from $2,700 an acre to $100 an acre, assessed value,
Well, my that's my
on a
down.
tax
Hold on.
rate.
Mm-hmm.
And he did all those things. He got the taxes back down to $5,600. It still fluctuates. You know, I mean, taxes go up every year, but it's
Sure.
it's a drop in the bucket compared to $5,600, $26,000. So that's how the whole farm started. And then they said, well, Ben, to get all these grants from the USDA, you got to grow something, or you got to do row crops. And I'm
Sure.
like, what am I gonna buy, a combine for 28? I mean, come on.
Right. Right.
Let's get realistic here. My
Right.
brother and I were drinking one day. Why don't we get 400 chickens? And I was like, what is it again? He's like, yeah, we'll get some chickens. We'll just let them go. And then we guys say we've got chickens. And I said, that sounds like a terrible idea, but let's do it. And we ordered from like Murray McMurray or something. We ordered Freedom Rangers, 400. Made a little makeshift thing in the barn with water and feed and heat. And we just let these 400 birds go. And 400 turned into 152 at processing day. But I sold them in like 2 weeks.
Just to locals,
Yeah. just
individuals, or did you go to?
No, just to John Q. Smiths and people, and word of mouth and everything else. And I said, and then my brother said, okay, there's this certified organic. It's in California and it's huge. It's the wave of the future, he said. Wave of the future. And I said, okay. So I called OFA, the Ohio Ecological Food and Farm Association, got the application, went to page 1, couldn't answer any question. I didn't have a chicken. I didn't know what it ate. I didn't have a, I don't know what I have no idea. Where's your organic feed going to come from? Who's going to process your 100 questions. And I sat on that application for 2 years. And one day I said, let's just do it. Let's just fill out the application, And we filled it out and we sent it in, and they came out and tested, everything, and walked around. I mean, none of this was here, of course. The chickens were just running around, and gave us an organic certification. And it's just those little things that you find that save you days, but it's taken years to find them. It's taken multiple phone calls.
Perseverance. y'all, thanks for watching our video at the Hoffman Organics farm. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed getting to go. We have been really interested in the Mangalitsa pigs and hope to add those to our farm soon. Be sure to go to Hoffman Certified Organics on Facebook and like their page and follow them. Also check out hoffmanorganics.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our page and make sure to like the video so you